everyone, and welcome to the Persevering with PCOS live show. This is episode 8. We took a little time off last week because we celebrated the holiday of Diwali last week, Thursday. So it's great to be back again with you all. So if you are here tuning in on the replay or if you're here live, please feel free to say hi in the comments and let us know if you have any questions, any feedback. We want to hear from you. So for sure, we want it to be very interactive. So please leave your comments so that we could address them. So again, welcome again to the Persevering with PCOS Live. And tonight I have a very special guest. She was one of the speakers at the Persevering with PCOS Summit that was I held between the 31st of May to the 4th of June. And we had a really great discussion where she shared information about energy imbalances and how that could have been affecting your fertility journey. So I'll just give a quick introduction and then she's going to come up and share a little bit more about herself. So Cherlyn Moy is a natural fertility expert trained in East Asian medicine who helps couples conceive naturally using her fertility protocols and Chinese medicine. She is the founder of Integrative Healing Arts in New York City, which utilizes acupuncture, herbal medicine, and energy healing to treat patients. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Cherlyn to say hi. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, as always, for agreeing to be part of my initiatives to get that information out there. I'm so grateful for you and for your expertise.
Oh, thank you. It's exciting. I love, any opportunity to share and, disseminate information that's going to really help someone. Because more and more, and especially and you know this in the world of fertility, that women, they see so many doctors, they go to so many clinics, and they find themselves really frustrated because they're not getting answers, and oftentimes they're told something that doesn't feel right, just doesn't seem right, and then they're kind of lost, and they go, okay, I think the answer is I have to search on my own and figure out how to heal myself, right? So that that they'll be able to get pregnant. And for sure, we know so often women that suffer with the polycystic ovary syndrome, that they are oftentimes given medication. They like early signs are ignored, and then late, maybe just hormonal birth control, and then later on in life, when they're ready to have a family, they're confronted with this underlying condition, which could have been addressed earlier on, right? And then they feel like their only hope is that they do IVF, so you know the story, and I'm sure that your listeners and your audience are very familiar with this scenario.
Yeah, it is unfortunately so common what you're describing, but I get so hopeful when I come across connections like yourself and other persons in that realm who are able to shed some more light on the alternative methods for healing and these things. So I just wanted you to share a little bit more with the audience, like what work you do and how do you help in that space.
Okay, so I have a brick and mortar practice in New York City, and so I help women and couples to conceive naturally. If they're already, oftentimes they're already on the road to, going to a clinic because they've been trying, and that has also failed. And so they come to me, uh, you know, to improve their egg quality, to help with retrieval, and they're extremely stressed out. And I see more and more women that are diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, or they have some of the let's say, some of the symptoms, and they're not diagnosed, right? So
Yeah.
in Western medicine, it's a situation where either you have it or you don't, and so when you're kind of trending in a direction, and you're not getting the answers, that's the part that's very frustrating. So for me, how I work with my patients is, okay, we need to just start, all the way from the beginning, your health history, and really go over different things that then we can address where you're going to be able to do for yourself,
Yeah.
right, to create balance. And a big issue, of course, is blood sugar, right? That's an aspect of it. Stress, a big one. Everyone is stressed, and in particular, stress is very influential in the endocrine system, right?
Mm-hmm.
For blood sugar, sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
mood, right? This is something that, the cravings for different kinds of like sugary, starchy foods, which is one of those, I want to say it's a symptom, but it's something that I look at, like when, someone's, oh, I really like, oh, I have to eat pasta or bread or anything, that
Yeah.
any kind of sugar, like that kind of craving beyond like, oh, I like dessert, but really there's a difference. And part of it is, and this is something I looked into, because I said, like this sugar, wanting, like needing the sugar, like really the craving, kind of like the insanity craving. Um, Women that are diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome have lower levels of serotonin,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so uh, the kind of craving for certain foods is naturally, the body is looking to balance that, right? So how can we balance it? They're going to crave certain kinds of foods, but then that gets them into trouble, right? Because then it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a vicious cycle.
Yes.
And yeah, so this is something, you know more and more, this is something that can be very empowering, right? Like, you can look at, like, wow, I can make different choices. If I need to have increase my serotonin, what can I do, right? I can do something like make some changes in some of my foods, right? And these are like different, like little things, what little things that are doable, not go out and a big diet, because that is just more stressful to
Mm-hmm.
do. But really, it's a matter of making a few substitutions, drinking more water, right, and recognizing sometimes some supplements, and recognizing what's going on, and then you get a handle on it, right, and then that is very empowering, right, because then you have success, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
more motivation, right, and then you're feeling better, and the dopamine and the serotonin is going through the body, right, and inflammation goes down, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's such a good point that you brought up, because I think a lot of times when you get a diagnosis like that, you're just told, like, you need to lose weight, not necessarily giving you any particular steps. It's like, eat healthy, cut this out completely, or these certain things. And what I really learned is exactly what you're saying, that doing these big diets and strict diets really seem to aggravate the problem. And it's really those
Yeah,
small steps that you need to take, and the celebrate, like what you said, in terms of like even celebrating these small things, because I realized that I didn't even do that. I was talking to another friend of mine, and I was telling her that I cut out dairy, because that helped me. And of course, that doesn't have to help every PCOS person, but it helped me in my journey. And but I was saying it in a way that, like, I did this, but it wasn't such a big deal. Or, I wasn't celebrating it. And she had to stop me, and she was like, no, but that, you were able to do that. You were able to make that step. So you need to celebrate that. And then let's see what's the next step going forward. So I think that's a very important point to bring home to persons who feel like it's sometimes all or nothing.
it's a perfection thing too, right?
Yeah.
There's so the underlying. I mean, this is. I hope this is not off topic, but
No.
the underlying, for a lot of women and women's health is that there's something wrong with them, and they're somehow not worthy, or they're not doing something perfectly, or they did something and they don't deserve, and that also, it like ties into that kind of restriction of, oh, I can't eat certain foods, I have to restrict my, like, and it's like punishing, this
Yeah.
punishment. um when you eat something that is healthy for you, right? There's an aspect of like a bigger picture that, let's say it's like bitter vegetables, right? Because most green stuff is bitter.
Mm,
But you also know that as you're taking it and you're eating it, that this is really good for you. And if you think about it that way, that how what you're doing for yourself, it doesn't have to taste good, but knowing that you're doing something good for yourself, not
mm,
being good, not being good, but doing something good for yourself. That is that self-care. That is a win. We'd say that is an improve, like you're improving. You're really, taking those steps, right? Because it's just you and that piece of whatever kale, or like that's that moment that you're making that choice.
mm,
That's a big deal. Like no one's, twisting your arm, right?
mm,
It's got to be like, and just knowing like, okay, great, I had, leafy green vegetables. I ate brown rice. I, didn't have French fries. Instead, I had, some sweet potato or something else. That every time you make that choice, as opposed to, oh, I can't have it, it's a
mm,
different shift, right? It's a different kind of a mindset around what you're doing for yourself. And as much as you could be following a whole list that the doctor said, oh, you have to do this and this, that knowing that every time you make that choice, that is empowering, right?
mm,
So you have this control, right? You have this, you always have a choice. And if you choose health, that is a big, that's really big. And we're looking at even a longer term, health situation, right?
mm,
Because you want to get pregnant, you want to have a healthy pregnancy, you want to have a good delivery, a good postpartum, right? All of that. This is about the whole thing, right? All of
mm. No, I see. My friend Trisha, she says she loves this topic.
it. Oh,
Yeah,
exciting.
it's so important to hear these things because sometimes we're just sitting here, beating ourselves up because you get a diagnosis. And it doesn't even need to be a diagnosis, but you have certain goals, health goals or whatnot. And you being told, or I shouldn't say you're being told because, it is your responsibility too, but you have that, as you said, the perfectionism in your head is like, okay, if I can't do this way and get this result in this short space of time or whatever, then I'm not gonna do it, or I'm gonna fail and whatnot. But it's just that small reframe on what you're saying. It's like it's just this choice. Get through this choice, get through this meal, get through this day, celebrate the wins, and then go again tomorrow. I think that's such an important thing.
Yeah, because I'm sure I find this,
Mm,
that by the time someone comes to, that you're working with them, or they find you, or they find me, they have a good idea of what's going on. They're not in the dark. They're not that in the dark. And they may also kind of know what they're supposed to do. When you say they're supposed to do, right? So when they say that, it's also, that is the aspect of that feeling of like, I'm supposed to do it. You can hear the resistance in it, right?
mm,
So it is a reframe. The mindset shift or mind shift is a reframe. And we have to get out of the good, the bad, and it's really like, what's going to be healthy. It's not, it's a practice, right? Everything is a practice.
yeah,
And we're looking at, yes, the end goal is, to get pregnant. That's like that's a short term, You think about, okay, that's one thing that seems very, very specific and attainable. Like kind of like, okay, if I do this, I do that, and then I get that. So it's also very transactional.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is there's a bigger picture with it, right?
Yeah.
Because the studies show that women that struggle with infertility, right, not just polycystic ovary syndrome, that we know is there's a metabolic thing on, which means it could be thyroid, the thymus, like there's adrenals, everything. It's affecting the entire body. We're just looking at the symptom of, okay, these cysts and the weight gain and the hair and the adrenal, the imbalances and the sugar imbalances. We're looking at specific symptoms. But anything that is metabolic, including long-term stress, is going to have a consequence on the overall health of the person. And of course, it'll lead into like we can look at like, oh, sleep is going to be disturbed, right? Because that's that the melatonin is not happening. We're having the cortisol that's like waking people up in the middle of the night. We see this a lot as women are transitioning, as they're going through menopause and the hormones are fluctuating, that this is one of the issues, is the waking up in the middle of the night and the night, like the night sweats. And let me see if I lost I think I just kind of lost my train of thought where I was with. So the long term. So we're really like looking at the long term, and so the symptom of it, struggling with fertility, or even like miscarriage, or did all like ectopic, all kinds of like problems with the menstrual cycle with a woman, and in particular it shows up later when trying to conceive. That is a symptom of underlying health issues, right? And we know, like animals in captivity, they can have all the food, all that, and they have a lot of difficulty, reproducing, because they're under stress. So we really have to look at this as a marker that other things are going on that need to be addressed. And so the studies show that women that were having had struggling with fertility had a higher mortality rate, because that was kind of a marker that some other process is going on, which we could say, of course, we know that. We can say, oh yeah, that most likely is true. The thing is that we're in this position right now where we're getting this information and we can do something about it, right? We again, we have a choice. It doesn't. It's not a it's not our fate, right? We can change the destiny, or your destiny, right? Your destination. You can actually do something about it. And so I think this is a great point where we are for women to take care of themselves, right? It's a because this is really I hate to say that the medical the Western model doesn't have all the answers, right? And so we need to be our own, our own doctor, so to speak, because we can feel what's going on, and to connect with people who are going to listen to you, right?
That's the thing.
That's also, yeah. You have a choice of who you go to see too. I'm pretty much like, we don't want to get into a trap of, oh, I only have this one person. You just say, like, if they don't make you feel comfortable, then change them. Change.
Yeah, and sometimes it like I know throughout the journey, sometimes you even feel like you don't have the power to do that sometimes. So I think it's so important that women know that, they have the choice. It's like if you need to change the person that you're seeing, then you definitely can do that. So
Yeah.
what I know we wanted to talk specifically about sleep, as well as some food tips that can help with metabolism and anxiety. So if you could touch a little bit, if you want to touch on sleep first, and give us some tips. I definitely need some right now when it comes to my
All
sleep.
of us are needing sleep. It's really interesting because like sleep is a huge it's really a very big problem,
Mm,
and we've seen in the last during this pandemic that we're still kind of in it, but before, even before that, sleep was a big problem, and that's because we have very stressful lives. And then, of course, if we don't get enough sleep, that is going to affect our metabolism. So poor sleep related to higher incidences of diabetes, metabolic syndrome, which is the weight gain, which is very similar to what we see in polycystic ovary syndrome, right? The kind of the weight gain and the hormone levels. Um, so this is also one area where if you get restorative sleep, you're also going to help to balance your hormones, because the sex hormones and the sleep hormones, part of the circadian rhythm, they work in tandem. So what we've because of our modern life, here we are, watching videos until 3 o'clock in the morning.
mm.
uh, Something like the Squid Game. I don't know if you've seen it, but
No, I don't think I want to watch it, but I have other shows that I would want to watch till 3 a.m. So I know that struggle.
yeah, I mean, our you know, I would love for if somebody wants to stay up until 3 o'clock in the morning watching us, I'm all for it. I'm all for it
Mm.
because it'll calm them down. Right? But one of the problems is missing that window of your biological clock, or the it's the yeah your it's a biological another kind of like your circadian rhythm, and there's that window when it gets dark, and like in the evening, that we start to produce melatonin. And if we don't produce enough melatonin, then we don't get deeper sleep. We have a shorter sleep cycle. Right? So we really need to be looking at going to bed when it's dark, or like as it gets later, lower your lights so that you will produce enough of the melatonin so you'll be able to sleep and get deeper sleep. Right? And then on the other aspect is, during the day, you need to get out into the sunlight and get enough vitamin D, right? At least, we need to see light just like animals need light. Just like chickens, when they lay eggs, they see light and they lay eggs. We also are very much connected to the rhythm of the earth. And by, staying up late, and not going to bed, and powering down, we are interrupting our natural rhythm, and that's where our hormones are also regulating. And so this is an issue. People who don't get sleep, they end up developing these amyloid plaques, it's the amyloid enzymes, which are what contribute to things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, right, or like dementia.
Mm.
And this is inflammation in the body. Right? So we start to see that there are lots of problems that are contributing, to poor health, and then of course that is going to interfere with fertility for sure, right? So looking at, when you want to go to bed and you've got all of this, these problems from the day, thinking about work and the economy and the climate. There's the political situation around the world, and we're in a pandemic, and family and school and home, and there's always something to catch our attention, right? Which is also that with I would say social media, is that we're constantly being stimulated and triggered.
Mm.
So our brain can't shut down,
Yeah.
right? And so that, the chattering, the anxiousness, the back becomes very difficult, for people. They're and so important is to
Breaking
eat
up a little bit.
uh, important to eat foods that are going to help you to get sleep or to calm down. And those are things that are rich in GABA. That's a neurotransmitter that actually helps to slow down the back or anxiousness. Right? And it's found GABA is in stuff like brown rice.
Oh, Cholin, I think you're breaking up a good bit. I thought it was me, but I'm seeing Shresh just saying as well that you're breaking up a lot.
I don't know why. Can you hear me now or
Yeah,
no?
I'm hearing you better now.
Oh, I'm looking at my. It should be all right, the Wi-Fi, but
You're better now.
okay. Um, so where did I was talking about certain foods that have that contain that are higher in GABA, which can actually help with your sleep.
Okay.
Right? So that was like broccoli is one of them, brown rice, and even banana.
No.
And this was an interesting one that I found out. Also, green tea, right? Green tea has so many amazing properties. Aside from very low in caffeine, the way that it has like flavonoids and other antioxidants that are great for and also antimicrobial, antiviral, uh, and also the way that tea works is that it slowly releases the caffeine over time, so you don't get the jolt and you don't get like the spikes.
Yeah.
So this is something that's even because I know a lot of women that are in the process of looking at conceiving, they're completely off of caffeine, right? And that's very hard for them. So having a little bit of green tea is having green tea is not an issue, is not going to be an issue, right? Because it's not spiking um, the your system like a cup of coffee might, right? But it does help focus, right? And that's something too, right?
Mm.
Uh, what else can I tell you about? Yeah, I mean there are other foods. You can also take GABA as a supplement, right? That you can find it. I often will suggest it to my patients to try it. To just try a little bit. You can very little, and it just helps them to sleep. You know,
Mm.
right? To get that and that's what we need to do is really work on it, to have like to have that consistency with sleep.
Yeah, because I really what you shared in terms of like, because I felt the times where I've slept and I feel like I've slept 8 hours, or at least theoretically, but then you wake up and you still feel like you didn't really sleep. It wasn't a good sleep. Um, so I'm really thinking like those things could help a little bit because it's very. I know you said all the things you're thinking about, all the things during the day, and sometimes it's very difficult to really shut off your mind, as you're saying, and to really avoid those things during the day. But I don't know if you'd like recommend maybe having some days where you completely locked off, but not just from social media, but from like the usual, day by day things to kind of reset that sleep as well. Because that's I think that was is one of my biggest challenges, like how to turn off my brain and release when I'm sleeping. It's like a deep sleep, so that I do feel rested.
Yeah, I mean what you were describing is a lot of people they may have they go, oh, I sleep 8 hours. My question is always, well, do you wake up refreshed,
Mhm.
right? And oftentimes they're not. They wake up and of course if someone is struggling with fertility, the thing that they go to bed worrying about is what's going on.
Mm.
And so one of the things is that before you go to bed, you need to do, like think about the good things that happened during the day.
Mm.
And of course, gratitude. You can be grateful for, the small things, the the wins.
Mm.
You can be grateful that today I made this choice. Um, Even the things that we consider are like bad or negative, those are, they point us in another direction, right? And so they're usually what we consider really bad is usually something that is a strong message that we get,
Mm.
right? To pay attention to it, right? Which is why it's unpleasant because we're kind of like knocked off of, you know, the direction we were going in.
Mm.
So those are the things that are really hard because those are the things that we can struggle against. And so having this, being grateful for the traffic, being stuck in traffic, it's like, oh, I get to listen to a podcast, or like you kind of like find the positive in it, and
Mm.
that's a way of shifting it's shifting the energy, right?
Mm.
You got to shift it. And that'll also help with having better sleep, so you don't go to bed stressed, like, with the teeth grinding, and then wake
Mm.
up, with like your jaw hurting,
Yes,
right?
that's the
Um,
grinding thing.
that's exactly like, yeah. I mean, how many people are given night guards right now?
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
where they're, because they're grinding their teeth, which it'll save their teeth, but it doesn't stop them from clenching their jaw.
Right.
So that's the thing. Um, what else can I share? And someone says, so true.
Yeah,
Yeah, so true, right?
it is.
Uh,
Because even though you're saying, because it comes back to what you were sharing earlier, like really reframing things. And even though I do believe in like practicing gratitude and trying those things, I just had a aha moment. It's like, wait, but I don't fully do that into my sleep routine, So I think that's something useful that I'm going to use as well. And I learned that I grind my teeth in my sleep. I didn't know that was something that I was doing. I recently learned that.
a lot of there was an article in the Times, I think it was probably last year, that was talking about when people were starting to go back to the dentist.
Mm.
The dentists were saying that they noticed that people were cracking, their teeth were cracking. That's because people were like clenching from the stress, right? So
Mm.
those were, those are some hallmarks of, the body is holding on to that stress. Now, I do think it's important to turn off your phone and the computer and all of those things, to really just, sometimes just put it on do, to, really
Oh,
don't have, what's that?
oh, you're
Am I,
breaking up again.
um, do not disturb. Uh, when you go on vacation, you don't have phone service, and the first thing you're worried about is, oh my God, I'm not going to get my messages. What am I going to do? Right.
Yeah.
Um, and so instead, after a few days, you're like, oh, I don't get good service, but I go back there, I can get service. And after a while, it doesn't bother you anymore,
Mm.
right? The messages will wait,
Mm.
right? And so I think that, just limit, like one of the things to do, efficiency too, is to, you just answer your emails, in the morning, and then, midday, and then the after, like just at those times.
Yes.
Yeah, and then yeah, and not be available all the time, right?
Mm.
Like it's and those are boundaries, right? We call those are the boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm having aha moments because that's how I feel sometimes. Sometimes when there's a message, I feel this obligation that I need to respond right away. So I think I need to set healthier boundaries when it comes to that as well.
Well, when you have a business, right? It's you,
Mm.
and I think for women, that they are I'm gonna bet this. I can't say for sure, but I suspect that women are much more in the habit of responding immediately compared to men. I'm
Mm.
going to guess that.
Yeah.
That they're much more like, oh, I have to get back to that person, that they're going to respond right away.
Mm.
I'm going to bet that that is something, right? I can see.
You see when the men say anything, but I'm seeing that Shresha is saying she's trying to do that, I guess, to batch the when she's replying, and oh yeah, she says she's like me. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know what that is. Somebody, and I like want to respond, but when you're thinking about it, it's like sometimes it could wait, or depending, like like you check just if it's hopefully it's not an emergency, they would call. But most of the times notifications of something random, it's like, okay, well, I don't need to check that right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, the expectation and that, but at the same time, sometimes when you do check, it's important, right? Or you're like, oh, I'm glad that I
Check.
responded,
Yeah.
sooner than later. Um, though I think, that's another thing is to really have boundaries, right?
Mm.
This is, um, we all, and that's also the hard stop to, for sleep,
Yeah.
and also making sure that you take care of yourself really first. And it's not selfish, right? It's really about preservation and being able to function efficiently, to be healthy, right? And in order to be able to serve, right? To give back, or to give however you want to, but you really need to be fully there. And
Mm.
this is yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's a practice. It's a practice, right?
it definitely is. It definitely is because for me, this journey has been really about integrating all those things, and like when you have to build those, as you say, practice, build those skills. So I think that's the next area that I'm gonna have to work on, because I'm really seeing that I need some work in that sleep area. And you touched on a lot of things that I'm guilty of, but I'm going to um really intentionally try to practice some of those tips that you gave.
You're not guilty. You're not guilty. That's kind of funny. Um,
Mm.
it's a challenge, right?
Yes.
This is challenging to pull it all together. And I know you have a child, right? You have a
Yes.
child. Yeah.
Who is also she seems to be anti-sleep sometimes, but
Well,
so
kids do get pretty, they get active, and, they get their growth spurts, and they're developing. And of course, now kids are exposed to so much of these electronics and stimulation. So it can be very challenging for them to rest. That's a part. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
especially in the summertime, right? When the sun is when
Yeah,
there's
I'm trying to be good. We have sun and then we have rain. That's basically, so it's like a lot of sun all the time. But I do want to for her to learn some better sleep routines from now, because I don't want to perpetuate those things.
Well, yeah, well that's the key is like you model. I mean, that's the thing with like being a parent is that you model, and they have mirror neurons. So you're
Mm.
actually modeling. It's the do as I say, not as I do. And no, they actually are picking up the like all of it. They're not listening to as much, as you can tell. Like kids don't really listen. So they're going to do whatever they're going to do. So they're they pick up the patterns, right? And so that means that we've also learned those patterns as well, and we get the information around us that you should be working hard and partying, and you know
Mm.
it's a much more doing culture,
Mm.
right? doing. And what I'll say here is, uh, with my patients, they're always like, well, what do I need to do? Do I need to, maybe I need to start exercising. Maybe I need to do a fast. Maybe I need to do a detox. And I'm usually like, and also sometimes they're taking so many supplements. They're
Hmm.
taking this for this and this for that. And I look at it and it's like, the more, one of the things they say, the more complicated something is,
Hmm.
the simpler the solution.
Hmm.
So trying to do everything, it's going to create more chaos, right? But focusing on what's the simple thing to do, it's at your that's, it may not be so easy to go to bed earlier, but that's the like a thing that's it to focus on. Like, you don't need somebody to come in and help, and that's something that you have to, like, only you can do. Right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's such a helpful point, Charlene. It really sometimes is so simple. I always see these memes and they say things like, you had a tension headache, or you had these symptoms, and you're wondering why, or you're thinking it's something where WebMD is going to tell you like this thing, but then you have to ask yourself, it's like, how much water did you drink today? And then when you think about it, it's like, wait, I didn't really drink water. And it's really as simple as that. So sometimes you really do need to go back to the basics sometimes.
water, incredible. 75%, this is another statistic, 75% of the population is dehydrated,
Hmm.
right? And so you go like, wow, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Because if you're not having enough fluid for your body to do its function, of course you're going to feel tired and sluggish and have a lot of inflammation,
Hmm.
right? So those are the things, to look at. And you'll just feel better. I mean, that's immediate. If you're dehydrated and you drink some water, you definitely feel better
Hmm.
pretty soon, right?
Yeah. Wow. So thank you so much for joining me tonight and sharing all these tips. I'm so grateful for you and for grateful for being willing to share it with us and with the Mind of Yash community and the PCOS community. So I just want you to share with the audience, if they want to get in contact with you, how can they reach out and find you?
Sure. The probably the best way to reach out to me right now is going to be on Instagram. So that's my name, which is TSAOLINMOY. That's the my handle.
So yeah.
I think you probably have it in
Yes, I
your
have it in the description. So
have it in the description there. And I just started doing some TikToks,
oh,
which are which are
I'm
kind
gonna
of
look for you.
huh.
I'm gonna look for you.
Like, I've only done a few,
Yeah.
but they're kind of fun, and this is a new platform to look at, and a way it's just to have fun, to have fun.
Yeah, I took very long because I to join TikTok because I just thought I would be not great at it. I was like, maybe I'm not as creative. But then when I joined it, like the ideas started to come, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
the beauty of it is it doesn't have to be perfect,
right,
right?
exactly.
And it's just kind of like you get out. So and then, like, if nobody's gonna look, it's kind of like, who cares, because it's not perfect anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
So I see Shreya just shared. She said this was really good information, and I absolutely agree. So I'm really grateful for what you shared tonight. And yeah, so ladies and gents who are tuning in, please feel free to. Well, I don't see any questions, but if you have questions subsequently, leave them in the comments. I'll get them to Charlene, and we will
yeah,
answered. Um, and check out her pages on Instagram. And subscribe so that you can see all the future episodes of the Persevering with PCOS Live. And it was great having you all tonight. So take care and have a great rest of Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend.
okay. Thank